is the December 10th, 2024 board meeting. That's 5:03 right now. We're going to begin by indicating who's here. Clark, why don't you start?
Clark Nelson.
Chris Wynn.
Connie Burgess.
Kim Chandler.
Todd Hopper.
Ben Orsley.
Nicole McDermott. We are expecting Julie to show up, hopefully, and Karen Winder is excused due to some personal matters. So we're going to go ahead and turn the time over without objection because this is such a short report and it is something that our preschool expert has to leave. We are going to move the information item that is listed on our agenda as number 13, the adoption of preschool core instructional materials. This is just information right now. We're going to move that up to right now if there's no objection to that. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening, President McDermott and board and Superintendent Horsley. I'm here to present on our preschool core adoption instructional materials, and this will be a review from the core adoption materials we used for ELA last spring. So I'm going to quickly go through what you already have. If you want me to slow down, I'm more than happy to slow down, but I'm going to focus in on just the essentials. Okay, maybe. Oh, here we go. Okay, so our objectives today is to provide a summary of acquisition of curricular instructional materials, and this is just a review, and then introduce a request for proposal committee recommendation in a first public meeting. So today we're going to talk about instructional material acquisition, and these Senate bills and codes and Granite School District policy coordinate with what we're doing today. And each of them are hyperlinked so you can check out the policy. Instructional materials definition. There's a learning material, a material or resource used to deliver or support a student's learning. Instructional material, material that a local school board adopts and approves for use with an LEA, and that's what we're doing tonight. And also a supplemental material, and we're not working with supplemental materials at this time. The definitions are instructional material, core instruction material, that's what we're looking at. Instructional materials that are acquired through large-scale adoption process, which includes a request for proposal budgeted through an annual cycle. And we aren't working with ancillary materials at this time. So there's two things that a local school board needs to do. Make instructional material that the school district uses readily accessible and available for parent view, and establish an open process involving educators, parents of students enrolled in an LEA to review and recommend instructional materials for board approval. So in Senate Bill 55, it says that we need to post the recommended learning material online for review, and then before adopting the recommended material, hold at least 2 public meetings on the recommendation, providing an opportunity for opinion. And then we adopt or approve the instructional materials in an open board meeting. So on the Granite website, right now it's open for view, and as you click through the materials, you're going to come to a page like this that the parent can get the curricular resources and view them, but due to copyright reasons, we won't include any of that right now. We also have a process where we capture the addresses of the people that are viewing it, just because a lot of our preschool parents aren't in focus and don't have a parent portal. We're going to collect addresses to ensure that they live within our district boundary. And that is it. Any questions?
Do we already have an approved curriculum, or is this something that we're now doing this officially because of the new bill?
We do have, can you hear me?
But you should.
Okay, get a little bit closer. We do have a current curriculum. We are in need of a new curriculum because the current curriculum we have is about 18 years old. It's no longer published and supported by the original publisher. And since it was adopted, the Utah State Board of Education has developed core standards for early childhood. And so we're in need of a curriculum that aligns with the core standards to help us better prepare kids for kindergarten. So that was kind of our rationale for heading out for a new curriculum. Yeah.
So we would encourage anybody who is interested to review that curriculum and then reach out and offer any feedback that we can read and we can review, and we will be reviewing this next board meeting as well.
And we'll also give a short synopsis of what's collected, as well as any raw comments that you'd like to view.
Just talked to Luke and verified. We've emailed this information out to preschool through third grade families, and it will also be in our next parent link email that goes to all families, just as another reminder that they can review those materials.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate it. All right, Dr. Day and Kyle Anderson are going to come up. We're going to talk about special education. Board, just so you know, I'm going to keep an eye on the clock, and I will cut off discussion at 5:50 at the latest, just so we can get our executive session done. If you have further questions that are not answered during this time, if you would please keep track of those and then email them to Dr. Day, that would be fantastic. Thank you. And please wait till the end for your questions.
Okay, thank you so much. We are just going to go over some of the changes, adjustments, and kind of the state of, I guess, the state of the union in special education as we are right now. We wanted to talk to you and update you on our previous model, our new models that we're using this year. As you remember, we went through quite a lengthy process of doing some restructuring last year. We want to talk to you a little bit about our resource allocation, how that's going. We want to talk about some curriculum and training, and then we wanted to update you on the current state of affairs when it comes to our co-taught kindergarten program and how it's going and what we'd like to do moving forward. So to begin with, I want to just review some of our previous service pattern. As you might recall, we had quite a complex service delivery model. The biggest piece that I want to bring your attention to is down here in our special class. You can see we had quite a few special class offerings, which created lots of issues when it came to individualization, transportation, capture areas, and some excess costs that way. We did simplify our model, and this is our current model now. As you can see, we've gone from about 9 different special classes down to about 6 to better capture what is actually going on in our classrooms, the nature of the disabilities, and to help our teachers more individualize what was going on with our students. And this all came about because of a couple of different things. As you recall, we had HB 477 with full day kinder. That created a situation where we had, we were essentially discriminating against some of our kindergarten students with disabilities because the only offering we had was half day, but everybody else was getting full day, and they were only getting half day simply because they had a disability. So we had to address that. We had low graduation rates for students with disabilities. We had some excess transportation times because of all of the very lengthy and the individual classrooms and the overlapping capture areas. We had to simplify that down to get their transportation times under 1 hour. And then we had lots of special class students attending class very far from their homes. This all came about because we had a history built around half-day kinder. That's what gave us the ability to have all those special classes, was because we used the FTE that we saved in only offering half-day kinder to create some more special classes and different class types. Also, with the passing of HB 477, we really were forced to embrace a full-day model, so we had to do something about that. And again, the history of our poor graduation rates from 2015 on really demonstrate that we need to do something very different. So right now, we just turned in our SCRAM numbers that goes along with the December 1 count. We are required to send in the number of students that we have based on their SCRAM records, and SCRAM records actually go according to their how much of the day, the location of where they're getting their services, and the service pattern is the percentage of the day that they're actually spent in general education versus special education. And right now, based on our December 1 count, we're down about 470 students in special education. And when we did some analysis on that, the students are down. What we're seeing across the board in our resource setting, so our students who have the minimal services, that's where we're down in students. But we happen to also be significantly up in our self-contained and our special class numbers. When we looked at and did some analysis, what we found was that we're only really dropping the equivalent of about 2 students per resource teacher, that doesn't allow me to recapture FTE and reallocate it. So even though we're down, there's an additional burden on our special classes because we're moving kids that way. As you can see, we also have to report the number of students by classification to the state. The largest group right here, this 40%, those are students with specific learning disabilities. Those would be our classically kind of learning disabled students. The next largest group would be our communication disordered kids that happen to be mostly our speech-only kids who have articulation issues in elementary schools. Next, we have our next largest group would be right here, our students with autism. And between those three groups, that they represent about 87% of all of our students in Granite. Now, this year we were, as I talked about before, we've had this shift from resource into special class. We've had to add additional FTE in these locations. This year in elementary school, we had to add an additional 2 essential elements classrooms to Granger Elementary, 2 to Hillside. We had to move 2 to Wright Elementary and also add an additional FTE in the applied academics classroom. We added Cotop Kindergarten to Wright Elementary, to Lincoln Elementary, and then Woodstock, we've just added an additional classroom there as well. And anything with an asterisk are the things that we've had to add since the school year started to capture the additional enrollment that we weren't expecting. In our secondary schools, we've added EE classrooms and AA classrooms to Benyon Junior High. We've added or moved a classroom over to Evergreen. Kennedy Junior High had a social emotional learning classroom and an essential elements classroom. Cottonwood, we added an additional applied academics classroom, Cypress and Kearns High as well. And just by way of information, 50% of our special education teachers that we've hired this year are uncertified and not licensed because there just simply aren't the candidates out there. Last year, we were only at 40% of that, so we've had an increase of about 10%, and only 12% of the new teachers we've hired actually have any special education experience. When it comes to resource allocation, my budget is about $87.5 million. Right now, we have 575 licensed personnel, that's teachers, speech and language pathologists, psychologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and special duty nurses. On top of that, we have 695 ESPs. Those would be our paraeducators, our instructional assistants, contract paraeducators, instructors and trainers. Our SLPAs, those would be our speech and language assistants or speech and language techs. Those are licensed positions, as well as CODAs and PTAs. Those are also licensed positions. And that's, again, about 700 ESPs that we have. And then we're paying about $294,000 in substitutes. In addition to that, we've got our curriculum that we're purchasing in materials. We're spending about $3.5 million on WonderWorks, Language Live, Read 180, Into Reading, which is the new curriculum we've adopted in the elementary schools, and then Unique Learning Systems. We have to purchase protective equipment for our teachers. That includes protective arm guards, helmets, things like that, wheelchairs, standards, iPads, and other electronics, as well as classroom supplies and reinforcers for our teachers to just kind of function. And on top of that, we have several contracts, including the University of Utah, to address some of our severe behavior issues that we've got. We've got psychologists and a psychiatrist that helps manage meds and stuff like that that we get through that contract. We're Utah Behavior Services. Right now, they're a private entity that are delivering private school services to several of our students with pretty significant behavioral issues. And then Focus and Relay Hub for our IEP platform and our Medicaid billing. Oops, I have to go down. We've trained all of our teachers. We had Fall Institute on the 29th. We pulled all of our special class teachers together. That's our essential elements, applied academics, and our social emotional learning teachers. We reviewed all of their curriculum and went through and taught and trained them on their curriculum, which would be unique learning systems, InterReading, and then iReady Math. On top of that, we also taught them about schedules and support structures. So we have a curriculum website that walks them through everything that they use in their classroom, a typical schedule for elementary, junior high, and high school, what that looks like with links to all the resources they need to run that schedule. We've got reinforcement hierarchies, level systems, sensor diets. All that is what we train on the 29th. In addition to that, we have compliance trainings, which are in person here at the district office during the day. So that's where those substitute costs come from. We've got our first year teachers get 6 full days of training. Our second and third year special ed teachers get 4 full days of training. And our experienced teachers right now that's in years 4 plus get 2 full days of compliance training. With that, I want to hand it over to Kyle to really talk about how we're doing in our Co-Talk Kinder, which is our new program.
Yeah, I'll try to go quick. I could talk about this all night because I'm pretty passionate about this. This is the data that we have for outcomes for our students, kindergarten students with disabilities last year in the program that we used to call Diagnostic Kindergarten. So I'll do my best to explain the chart here. What this is kindergarten students with IEPs. No or yes means no, they were not in diagnostic kindergarten. So those are your resource type students. They're in a general education class with some resource time. Yes are your students that were in our diagnostic kinder, so more of the special class. These are what we call POP scores, so they're growth scores for literacy from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. It's a 1 to 5 schedule or scale, excuse me, a 3 being typical. So you would hope that we would hope every student in Granite District is a 3, 4, or a 5. You can see in the yes row for diagnostic kindergarten, we had 49 diagnostic kindergarten students that we had beginning of year data and end of year data. Every single one of those was a 1. That is alarming, was alarming, even though now it's a year-old data, it is heartbreaking. Not one of those students made adequate growth in that program. It was a half-day program. They did not have gen ed peers with them. There were things that worked against them, and this is just literacy, but it's alarming. Part of the reason why we had to make a change. So as we compare that now to our Co-Talk kindergarten class, which is it's more resource intensive. It's a much more intense program. So we're collecting a lot more data. So this is something that I designed back in the summer, and I'm not going to go through all the numbers on there, don't worry. But I just want you to see what a robust system we have for collecting outcomes on our Co-Talk kindergarten students. Are they learning? What's the return on our investment here? So the green would be August, September's there in yellow, and it goes forward. We're collecting data on all the students, both special education and general education, on do they know their letters? Do they know their letter sounds? Can they count to 100? Can they count objects? And then there's a column for behavior and their ability to follow routines. So we're only into December, but we can already see some fantastic growth, something that we can be really proud of with this program, and we can see a return on that investment. What we have here is the blue bars are our general education students who are in Co-Talk classes. The red are our students with disabilities, and then the yellow is just averaging those scores. So in August, when they came to us, and again, I won't go through every single one, but for alphabet sounds, your average across all CTK classes, student gen ed walked in knowing 13 and a half, I believe is the exact number, alphabet sounds. By September, it's 16. By October, it's 22. By the end of November, it's 24. Our students with disabilities are growing at a similar rate. So while the students with disabilities came in lower, their growth has been almost parallel. That's just alphabet sounds, just literacy. What about numeracy? Well, we see similar growth here. We see our gen ed students growing and our students with disabilities growing also, which we didn't see last year. So we're really excited about that and proud of them. Yeah, but what about the behavior? The behavior's tough in these classes. We have a lot of students with autism. We have a lot of students with significant needs. Well, they're getting better there too. In August and September, we saw the least amount of growth, very little. These are 5-year-olds with some real needs, and it was hard. And now you see by October and November, now we can start to see numerical growth. And we've got charts like this on all of those categories. Just for time, I just included these 3. They're all similar. all of the categories that we're measuring, literacy, numeracy, and behavior, are all showing growth, and we're super excited for our kindergarten students to be learning, to be making progress. This isn't because it's easy. These classes are challenging. Some of you might have been in there. I know I've been in there quite a bit. I know Ben has. We've been in those classes. They're challenging classes. But the resources are sufficient to where we're now seeing good growth, adequate growth, which these kiddos deserve. Coming in at 5 years old with some significant needs, that sets you up for the rest of your schooling experience. And what we had before wasn't doing it. So moving forward, based on this data, our hope is to follow what these numbers are showing us. That the Kotok Kindergarten is working. It's hard, it's challenging, we have to get the right people there. But we have more students that need that could qualify for that, than we have seats right now. So we're hoping for, we don't want to add mid-year this year. There are already other needs we have, but we're hoping for somewhere in the range of 5 more Kotok Kindergarten programs. We have plenty of kids that'll fill those up for next year. Hoping to continue to attract high-quality special education teacher candidates, because as we just talked about, we're hiring 50% or less of our teachers even have licenses at this point, and then we work with them to get that. So a stipend model to attract high-quality educators, licensed, experienced educators. And then an understanding that this is a long-term solution. It is working with our really needy kindergartners at a resource-intensive level to set them up for a good schooling experience going forward. It's not an overnight solution, but it's playing the long game. And those are the things that we just covered there, right? Our previous models, our new models, how we're allocating the resources, and the data that we're really pretty excited about, the hard work that those teachers are putting in, and they deserve the credit, not us. But we are seeing success, and that's our hope moving forward. Can we answer questions? Any questions that you might have in the last few minutes?
Clark, do you have any questions? Chris? Connie? Kim?
I have a few questions. I'll try to be quick. I just wanted overall to get a sense from your perspective how you feel it's been going. I have visited a few special ed classrooms in my precinct and had lots of feedback, which I'm sure you're aware of because I shared it with Ben. I know Kyle's been very, very involved. Overall, how do you feel like this change has gone? Specifically, I mean, I know there's bumps. It's new for some schools entirely, but I have had some concerns presented from teachers, and so I wonder, like, just overall, do you think it's been going well or not?
In regards to Kotok Kindergarten or
special
the
education
restructure?
as well as Kotok. So like some of the restructure meant classes moved to a different school, new teachers, more students in the class than they had before, that kind of thing.
As we talked about before, we're experiencing kind of a general increase in our special class numbers, even though our numbers overall are dropping, which means we're shifting them over. We're seeing that there is a more intense need. And what we're seeing is that because we don't have a great candidate pool, we're hiring new and unlicensed and often unfamiliar people. What we're seeing is that in those classrooms that have experienced teachers with the right skills, things go really well. Doesn't mean it's easy, but things are going well. Kids are making progress. In those locations where we were, for a variety of reasons, having to hire folks who are either less capable, less experienced when it comes to dealing with those students, they are falling apart. And we're having to step in and provide a lot of resources. As you can see, more than all of my budget goes to salaries and benefits, which leaves very little for additional support. And yet we're still required to supply it, so that's what we do. But we have to be we can't, we have finite resources. So as much as I would like to sweep in and give everybody everything they're asking for, we simply don't have the resources and the means to do that. But overall, in a general sense, I would say 80% of our classrooms are functioning very well. I would say 12 to 15% are rough. Things aren't always going real well, and we probably have 5% of our classrooms overall that are struggling really hard. And as we presented before, we've had to add FTE even after the school year started because kids move in. We don't know that they're coming. They just kind of show up either day one or they move in after the school year starts. And, you know, one student, if it's the right kind of student, can really cause havoc in a classroom. And that's what we're seeing. A lot of our students are coming to us with more significant behavior concerns. We're also seeing that those students happen to also be a lot lower academically. And with me having to push more of my resources from the district's office out into classrooms, I have less of an ability now to train those teachers to get their skills up to where they need.
And so do you think that those who are struggling right now, it would have been a struggle with or without the changes? I guess what I'm saying is have the
I do
changes
believe
made it
that,
harder?
yeah. I
So,
don't believe
no.
the struggles are because of the changes. I believe the struggles are because of the nature of the kids that we've got coming to us.
Okay. I feel like, so the numbers you presented about 50% of special ed teachers being licensed and only 12 having any prior experience, I suspect that if we were to look at average tenure for a special ed teacher, it would not be very high. Do you have any?
It's less than 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Burnout,
So you
right?
have those, we had the groups, it was like those who are first year get this training, second and third year get this training, fourth, anyone fourth and beyond. Well, that's half of our group. So half of our teachers are less than 4 years this year.
Yeah.
And that's just because it's a very stressful environment and they burn out and move on to other roles?
They do. And I would also like to say our experience in Granite is not that different from other districts, neighboring districts. Jordan, Canyons are also experiencing very similar things.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. I was just in the classrooms I was in. I was
Yeah.
an observer and it was very stressful
Oh,
to
yeah.
watch. And so I don't know how else we can support these teachers, try to make their lives a little easier, but I appreciate that you are trying the best you can there. Last question. The co-taught kindergarten, do we have any data to compare the general education students in that co-taught class with their peers in other traditional classrooms? We compared them with the special education students on those graphs.
Right now, we don't because it's what the data we're collecting is not the data that Gen Ed collects. We will at the end of the year, we'll be able to use apples to apples. Okay. So we'll be able to use that pathways of progress in Acadience to compare. Anecdotally, from our highest functioning classrooms, the Gen Ed students in those co-taught classrooms are performing at or above what their peers in Gen Ed are. But you also have to keep in mind there's 2 teachers in co-taught, 1 in general education. We've got 20 students, they have 30.
All right, that's all I have. Thanks.
I was just wondering, 'cause you said you don't have data. When does the middle of the year testing happen?
The middle of the year happens in January.
So will we have data at that point?
We'll have preliminary data, but pathways of progress is based on beginning, middle, and end of year.
Okay, so, but we
can
would
put
have
together,
some
we'll have
data
some that we'll be able to, I can work with Noel, we can come together and kind of compare.
Okay, would you maybe, working with Noel, aggregate some data for us and recognizing this is very preliminary, but we would like to just make sure that we're also serving the Gen Ed kids in those classes adequately. So I think we'd like to see that progress if that's.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
I think we're going to be closely analyzing this, and we've had some good meetings, and I just want to extend my appreciation to these 2 gentlemen and to Leslie for their support. We've gone out and visited these classrooms. They've just been very good with their time and looking for opportunities to enhance the services we're providing to not just these kids, but the supports we're providing these teachers. In fact, I'll be out at a classroom next week and with some of the information they're helping me with. So I just wanted to say thanks and appreciate all that you do.
Julie, you had some questions?
What percentage of the kids in our district are served by special ed? Do you know that off the top of your head?
Yeah, we are at about 13.5% of our total student population.
So, Todd, I want to know from you, I mean, we get restricted funds for special ed from the state and federal government. Do we have any other source of revenue for special ed?
So we also receive Medicaid reimbursement. That's another source of revenue that the district
gotcha.
has access to.
It just seems, this is 13% is a pretty high percent of kids who are, receiving the best we can do because we can't, we have a higher demand than we have supply with our teachers. And I'm frustrated that we are not advocating more at the state level about this problem. And every time I go into USBA, I'm the only one making a stink about special ed. And we get it on there as like, and we'd love it if you'd help special ed, because I'm over there making a stink. But like, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. And it's worth us talking with our teachers, with our GEA representatives. It's a big deal to our teachers as well. Like, they should care that we solve this problem. And I think we need to be really creative, and we need to get together with these legislators, and we need to say that it's not okay. We need to get our other special education departments in other districts together, and we need to say, this is not acceptable. It just isn't acceptable. And Kim and I are just saying over here, oh yeah, we've been in these classrooms, and it is hard work for one day. And now that I understand that really our big problem is that we don't have expertise in there, that makes so much sense to me when you say it like that. And, you know, that's a structural problem, and that's our job. It's our job, and it's the other elected officials who support us. It's our jobs to get that structure. So, I mean, you know, we need to start making a stink about it.
And if I could add one thing really quick, Bryce has taken the lead in a lot of legislative sessions and given testimony on behalf of other special ed directors. So honestly, we have one of the best special ed directors in the state sitting right here at the table. I've listened to him testify, very knowledgeable, very articulate, and very well spoken, and I think very well respected as well.
I've been up there on the
Thank
hill
you
with
so
him
much.
multiple times as well, so just please know that.
Oh, I don't mean that we aren't doing something.
All right, wait.
And like I just said, I'm over there trying too.
Yeah.
We're all trying, but I think we need to not give up on it. We have to like squeaky wheel. And we got to get other districts. I don't hear it from other districts. Are you hearing it from other? Are they also advocating, or like, do I need to light a fire?
It would help to light a fire, yes. This, ultimately, the population that we serve is an underrepresented population and is also undervalued. And because of that, it becomes very hard for anybody, for us to advocate in a way that we highlight these kids are important still. They're not broken. They came to us a certain way, and we have an obligation to them.
Right, it's hard to connect them to the economy.
It is. And I will tell you, sitting up in those legislative testimony meetings when I'm giving testimony and to hear them say that, you know, we don't see the return on the investment. Why would we invest there?
Oh,
and that's a huge piece of it, is that, and they do refer to us as the black hole across town, meaning USBE, that we just suck money, we give nothing back. Because the reality is education in general, it takes 20 years for the economy to see the investment that we make.
yeah.
And our kids it's even harder to identify what that result in the economy would be. And that's where they're driven.
Well, one thing that I want to make sure that we're changing the narrative on is it's not our kids' fault. It's not because these are kids who can't handle it or behave. It's because we don't have a structure in place to help them and give them what they need. And so I think we really need to, I hear that. I hear that narrative. And I think we've got to make sure that that gets changed. Okay, we can talk about this forever. I'm sorry I got all going on.
I had a real quick question. You said, and you wanted to add 5 co-taught classrooms, and you said there's kids that are wanting to do it, or you want more seats, more students. Do we have general ed students who are wanting to get into that classroom?
So district-wide, we've only had to remove 5 gen ed students from our co-taught kinder. We've not had any requests. Every student who is selected to go into co-taught kinder, we send a letter to their parents, letting them know they had the option of selecting out. We've only had 5 of the entire district.
Are there any that are asking, hey, I'd like to get my kid into that? We like the model of
No, but we haven't really had a structure for that. We were, for example, at Whittier, they were welcoming the new kindergartners last spring, and so I was there and a few others, and we had flyers talking about it and making sure that we had at least 10 parents who were on board to do it. And then we haven't pursued any more beyond that for next year, and we haven't had any asking to go into it this current year.
I'm pretty sure I had some parents at Upland who were like, oh, I'm putting my kid in that class.
Yeah.
So they may have requested it, but I did hear that at Upland Terrace.
I just wondered what the, like, if there was a demand for it. As a favor to the board as a whole, just so we can get a big picture, could you send, I'm sure it's somewhere listed on the website or something, but could you give us a list of all of the co-taught classrooms? Can you just send
Right
that
now?
to us?
Oh, send it to you.
Yeah.
It's 6 schools. I can list them for you, or we can send it to
Sure.
you, whatever you want.
Go ahead, listen.
Yeah. Upland, Lincoln, Fremont, Hunter, Whittier, Wright. Hunter has 2 classrooms, so there's 6 schools and 7 classrooms currently.
Okay. All right, thank you. And I want to say thank you also. I know our special ed teachers, I just want to recognize that they are some of the most amazing teachers that we have. It is a hard job. It is a tough job, but they are probably some of our best teachers that we have. And I always cry a little bit when we lose some of them because they become some of our best administrators as well. But it's so hard to see them go out of the classroom because they are so amazing. And if you talk to some of our best administrators, you'll find that they are former special ed teachers. So thank you so much for the work you do and for advocating for our kids. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that worked out well. Thanks, Julie, for keeping it short. Just kidding. That was all I had to say. All right, we have need of an executive session for the purpose of litigation. To that end, I will entertain a motion.
I move we enter executive session for the purpose of litigation.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to move to executive session for the purpose of litigation. This is a roll call vote. Please state your name. Go ahead, Clark.
Clark Nelson, yes.
Chris Nguyen, yes.
Connie Burgess, yes.
Kim Chandler, yes.
Hey, Julie Jackson, we need you in here.
Julie?
Julie Jackson, we need you in here.
That's good. Thank
You
you.
need to say your name.
Julie Jackson, yes.
Nicole McDermott, yes. All right. We'll take just a minute
We
to-
need Doug in the room and Chief of Staff. I think we can excuse the rest of the staff. You guys can go